Sleep paralysis is one of humanity's most terrifying experiences. Being conscious but unable to move while sensing a malevolent presence in the room. Horror cinema has transformed this real medical condition into supernatural nightmare fuel, creating demons that specifically target victims during their most vulnerable sleep states. Today, we're exploring horror movies that feature demons attacking people during sleep paralysis and vulnerable sleep conditions. These aren't just nightmare movies. They're films that specifically explore the terror of being conscious but helpless, while supernatural entities feed on fear and paralysis. I'm covering everything from invisible assault demons to ancient sleep paralysis entities, and I'm saving the most disturbing one for last, a documentary featuring real people's encounters with sleep paralysis demons. If you're ready to discover why sleep might be the most dangerous time of day, let's dive in. Movie 1, The Devil's Candy, 2015. The Devil's Candy follows Jesse Hellman, a struggling artist who moves his family into a rural Texas home where the previous owner committed murder. The film establishes that a demonic entity communicates through disturbing dreams and visions, influencing people during their sleep and vulnerable mental states. Jesse begins experiencing supernatural visions while painting, often during late-night sessions when he's in a trance-like state between waking and sleeping. The demon uses these vulnerable moments to implant violent imagery and compulsions, showing how supernatural entities can exploit the liminal space between consciousness and sleep. The film reveals that the previous homeowner, Ray Smiley, was also influenced by the same demonic entity through similar dreamlike states and visions. Ray's murders were the result of demonic commands received during these supernatural encounters, establishing a pattern of the entity targeting people through sleep-related vulnerability. Jesse's possession escalates as his sleep becomes increasingly disturbed. The demon sends him visions of violence against children, and these supernatural communications occur primarily when Jesse is in altered states of consciousness, including during sleep and while painting in trance-like conditions. The movie shows how the demonic influence spreads through the family as Jesse's disturbed sleep patterns and supernatural visions begin affecting his wife and daughter. The entity uses Jesse's compromised sleep state to orchestrate a supernatural plan that threatens his entire family. The Devil's Candy demonstrates how demons can use sleep disturbances and altered consciousness as gateways for supernatural influence, making sleep itself a dangerous vulnerability rather than a safe refuge. Movie 2, Dead Awake, 2016. Dead Awake centers on Kate Bowman, whose twin sister Beth dies mysteriously in her sleep. The film establishes that Beth was killed by a supernatural entity known as the Old Hag, a demon that attacks people during sleep paralysis episodes. The movie explains sleep paralysis as a medical condition where people become conscious but cannot move, often experiencing hallucinations of malevolent presences. However, the film reveals that some of these hallucinations are actually encounters with a real supernatural entity that feeds on the terror of paralyzed victims. Kate's investigation reveals that the Old Hag has been killing people for centuries, specifically targeting those who experience sleep paralysis. The demon appears as a dark, shadowy figure that sits on victims' chests, making breathing difficult while they remain conscious but unable to move or call for help. The film shows that the Old Hag's attacks follow specific patterns. The entity appears during the transition between sleep and waking, when victims are most vulnerable. The demon feeds on fear and terror, prolonging the paralysis to maximize the victim's psychological trauma before delivering the fatal attack. Kate discovers that the curse can be passed from person to person through specific conditions related to sleep paralysis episodes. The movie establishes supernatural rules governing how the Old Hag selects and stalks its victims, creating an inescapable cycle of supernatural predation. Dead Awake portrays sleep paralysis not as a harmless medical condition, but as a supernatural vulnerability that exposes people to genuine demonic attack, making every sleep paralysis episode a potential encounter with deadly supernatural forces. Movie 3, Insidious, 2010. Insidious follows the Lambert family when their son Dalton falls into an unexplained coma after a fall in the attic. The film reveals that Dalton hasn't actually fallen into a medical coma, but has become trapped in an astral realm called the Further, while his body remains in a sleep-like state. The movie establishes that Dalton has the ability to astral project during sleep, traveling outside his physical body to explore other dimensions. However, during one of these supernatural journeys, he ventures too far into the further and becomes lost, unable to return to his physical body. The lipstick face demon, the film's primary antagonist, targets Dalton specifically because of his astral projection abilities. The demon seeks to possess Dalton's empty physical body, while his spirit remains trapped in the further, using the boy's vulnerable sleep state as an opportunity for supernatural invasion. The film shows how the demon's influence spreads into the physical world as it attempts to claim Dalton's body. Supernatural phenomena escalate around the sleeping boy, including apparitions, moving objects, and the demon's direct manifestations in the family home. Josh Lambert, Dalton's father, discovers that he also has astral projection abilities and must enter the further to rescue his son. The movie reveals that this supernatural vulnerability runs in families and that the ability to leave one's body during sleep creates ongoing exposure to demonic entities. Insidious demonstrates how sleep-related supernatural abilities can make people vulnerable to demonic attack, showing that some individuals are naturally susceptible to supernatural predation during sleep states. Movie 4, The Entity, 1982. The Entity follows Carla Moran, a single mother who is repeatedly sexually assaulted by an invisible supernatural force. The film establishes that these attacks occur primarily when Carla is alone and vulnerable, often during rest periods or while she's sleeping. The movie portrays the entity as an invisible demon with immense physical strength that can manipulate objects and physically assault victims. The attacks are violent and sexual in nature, with the entity demonstrating the ability to hold Carla down against her will while remaining completely invisible. The film shows how the supernatural attacks escalate over time, with the entity becoming more aggressive and frequent in its assaults. The demon appears to feed on Carla's fear and trauma, growing stronger with each encounter and becoming bolder in its supernatural manifestations. The attacker's invisibility complicates Carla's attempts to seek help. Medical professionals and psychiatrists dismiss her experiences as a psychological breakdown, while the supernatural attacks continue to occur regardless of her location or circumstances. The movie reveals that the entity can attack Carla anywhere. Still, the assaults are most frequent and violent when she's in vulnerable states, particularly during sleep, or when she's alone and defenseless. The demon uses these moments of vulnerability to maximize its physical and psychological control over its victim. The Entity presents one of horror cinema's most disturbing portrayals of the supernatural assault, showing how demonic entities can exploit human vulnerability during rest and sleep to inflict ongoing physical and psychological trauma. Movie 5, Mara, 2018. Mara follows criminal psychologist Kate Fuller as she investigates the death of a man who allegedly murdered his wife during a sleep paralysis episode. The film introduces Mara, an ancient demon that kills people during sleep paralysis by literally scaring them to death. The movie establishes that Mara is a supernatural entity from ancient folklore that specifically targets people who experience sleep paralysis. The demon appears during episodes when victims are conscious but unable to move, using their helpless state to inflict maximum psychological terror. Kate's investigation reveals that Mara's attacks follow specific patterns. The demon marks victims by appearing during their sleep paralysis episodes, then returns repeatedly until the accumulated terror causes fatal heart failure. The entity feeds on fear and uses sleep paralysis as the perfect hunting ground. The film shows that Mara can be seen and photographed during sleep paralysis episodes, proving that the entity is more than just a hallucination. The demon appears as a dark, emaciated figure that sits on victims' chests, making breathing difficult while they remain conscious but paralyzed. Kate discovers that Mara has also marked her after experiencing her own sleep paralysis episode during the investigation. The movie establishes that once the demon targets someone, the attacks will continue until the victim either dies from terror or finds a way to break the supernatural curse. Mara portrays sleep paralysis as a genuine supernatural vulnerability, showing how an ancient demon exploits this medical condition to hunt and kill victims through pure psychological terror. Movie 6, The Nightmare, 2015. The Nightmare is a documentary directed by Rodney Asher that explores the real experiences of people who suffer from sleep paralysis. Unlike fictional horror films, this documentary presents first-hand accounts of supernatural encounters during episodes of sleep paralysis. The film features 8 individuals who describe their sleep paralysis experiences, many of which involve encounters with shadow people, demons, and other supernatural entities. These real people report seeing dark figures, feeling malevolent presences, and experiencing supernatural phenomena during their episodes of paralysis. The documentary shows that sleep paralysis sufferers often report remarkably similar supernatural encounters: dark, shadowy figures, the sensation of evil presences, and the feeling of being watched or threatened by invisible entities. These consistent reports across different individuals suggest patterns that go beyond simple hallucinations. The film uses dramatic reenactments to visualize the subject's supernatural encounters. These recreations show shadow people, demonic figures, and other entities that appear during sleep paralysis episodes, bringing the victim's experiences to visual life. The nightmare reveals that many sleep paralysis sufferers believe their experiences involve genuine supernatural contact rather than medical hallucinations. The documentary presents these beliefs without judgment, allowing viewers to consider whether sleep paralysis might actually expose people to real supernatural phenomena. The film demonstrates that sleep paralysis creates a unique state of consciousness where people report consistent encounters with supernatural entities, suggesting that this medical condition might serve as a gateway between the physical and supernatural worlds. These 6 films prove that sleep paralysis represents one of horror cinema's most terrifying concepts. The idea that our most vulnerable state exposes us to supernatural predation. From ancient demons to invisible entities, each movie explores how supernatural forces exploit the helplessness of sleep paralysis. What makes sleep paralysis horror so effective is its connection to a real medical condition that millions of people experience. The evolution from fictional supernatural entities to real documented experiences shows how sleep paralysis serves as a bridge between medical reality and supernatural possibility, creating horror that feels genuinely possible rather than purely fictional. Whether dealing with ancient demons, invisible entities, or astral plane predators, these movies prove that sleep paralysis creates the perfect conditions for supernatural terror, consciousness without the ability to fight back. Which sleep paralysis demon would you least want to encounter during an episode? Let me know in the comments, and subscribe for more horror content exploring the supernatural side of real medical conditions.